I really distinguish between fantasy and imagination. The easiest way to draw that distinction is fantasy is disembodied and often takes us out of the truth of the present, the truth of our being. Imagination is embodied. And I've spoken about how imagination, you can imagine your hand in hot water and it gets warm. You can imagine yourself entering a dark room and your iris will dilate. There is this intimate, fruitful connection between imagination and the body's neurology that we can dive into and explore. There's this other side that this exercise brings in, that our relationship with nature tends to be one where we are inclined to learn about nature. And there is this other whole possibility of learning from nature. Our affinity with all life is not imagined, it is cellular. Every life on earth is supported by molecules that were elements that were birthed in star matter. You and I are made of that. The trees are made of that. We depend on that. We are all human beings in that human means earth, and we are all earth beings. And so there's a practice I'd like to talk to you through that relies on the image of a tree. And I'd like you to just reflect for a moment. One perspective we can bring to that is that the roots of the tree can be considered its being in the same way that the roots of our being, I feel those deepening into the pelvic floor and the ground of my being and the earth itself. And they are hidden. So it is with the tree's roots reaching deep into the earth and doing what is visible, what is happening is above ground on the tree, just as our doing is what tends to happen through the body in a visible way. I'd also like to bring into your consideration the etymology of three words: tree and truth and trust. They all come from the same Indo-European root. Trust grew from the sense of being firm as a tree in its original Indo-European derivation. And that sense of trust is one in a human way that relies on our groundedness, on our connection with the earth, on our connection with being itself. If you can fully surrender to that horizonless ground of being, in my experience anyway, there is a commensurate sense of coming to rest in a way that expresses a deep trust. So trust can be understood, and I don't know of a way of understanding it more clearly for myself, as the ability to rest in being. If I can rest in being, I am in a place of trust. And so for this exercise, I think it would help if you stood, if you're comfortable doing that. And if you'd rather sit, that's all right too. Just suit yourself. And whether you're standing or sitting, I'd invite you to bring your awareness to the pelvic floor and feel its life in a similar way when maybe as a kid you're lying in the ground and you can feel the life of the earth on which you're lying. And to feel that affinity between your pelvic floor and the earth beneath your feet. To feel that life in a similar way. And to feel it as subtly as you're able to. And at the end of the out-breath, allow the pelvic floor to gently release to the in-breath. And as it does, you allow that release through the whole of the body as it's invited to join. And the wave of release on the in-breath, and then there's the wave of release on the out-breath. And there is a tidal bore moving through the body gently with each release of the body to the in-breath or the out-breath. And feel the whole of your being gently coming to rest on the earth. So you are at rest on the earth. You have been your whole life, but we lose the sense of that. And so to just feel your energy coming down to rest on the earth, almost like a kiss, almost like a caress, almost like an expression of tenderness. And imagine yourself as a tiny seedling, maybe a seedling of an oak tree. And feel your roots embedded in the earth, small as they are at one with it. And to actually allow the awareness of yourself to extend into the earth in that way. And to feel yourself as that seedling, feeling for the presence of the sun. Attuning to it. That sense of almost a longing that gently lifts you up. And feel yourself from that seedling starting to grow into a tree. And so to feel your roots, to begin always with the roots, and yourself, your sense of self is feeling its way into the earth, bit by bit. And as that root system deepens and spreads, to feel yourself being anchored. And from that place of anchoring, feel yourself rising from the earth towards the sun. And it is the anchoring, it is the groundedness that enables that growth. And you feel yourself growing as a tree. Up, up, the branches spreading. So the more you deepen your sense of self into the earth through those sensitized roots, the more you feel yourself rising. And the rising is towards the sun. And the rising opens you to the sky and the breeze and the world around you. But it is held by, sustained by, initiated by the fanning out of the roots into the earth, gently feeling their way, and to feel those roots spreading to each side, spreading behind you, spreading in front of you, deepening into the earth. And it is your sense of self that is growing into the earth. And as your roots fan out, your branches open to the sky. And always it's the roots, that sensitivity, that groundedness, that hold the tree upright, that enable it to grow. And see if you can balance in your awareness the root supporting that upward movement towards the sky, that outward movement towards the world around you. Knowing that it's the roots that make that possible. And between the branches is the spaciousness of the tree that enables the merest breeze to drift through it. And to feel that spaciousness in your own being. And to feel how that spaciousness is made possible by your deepening into the earth. And just for the moment, feel yourself planted. And it may be you an uncomfortable feeling that you're trapped, but just understand, just for the moment, allow yourself to feel completely planted and stabilized in this place at this moment. And you are passive to all that is passing through this moment. Deeply rooted in the earth. Completely present. And as you feel that sense of self held by the image of a tree, grounded in the earth, open to the sky, you may also feel the truth of your being. And you may also feel the possibility of cultivating a trust in being. And that brings the practice to a close. But I would invite you to be with that sense of being planted as long as you wish, to allow yourself to settle into the truth of your presence and the trust of being, and see where that takes you. That brings us to the 5-minute mark. But linger as you will. And of course, we welcome any comments, reflections, questions. Yeah, of course, I'm always curious about what came up for you in the practice. I may read you a little excerpt. I don't know if you know this book. It's got some really interesting stuff in it. Anyway, on page 221, there's this little thing I wrote that is pertinent to the practice we just did. The trees teach us how to stand. The sea teaches us how to breathe. The flower teaches us how to open our hearts. The waterfall teaches us how to ground ourselves. The mountain teaches us how to rest. The river teaches us to move on. The moon teaches us calm reflection. The spider's thread teaches us sensitivity. The starry night teaches us companionship. The blue sky teaches us patience.
I have only one word for the practice, and that was peaceful. I felt connected to the earth. I just wanted to sway and take a little restful nap. Felt good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah. And I look out my window at a tree there, and it is utterly at peace, not on the earth, but half in the earth, welcoming whatever comes. Yeah. Thank you.
So to Nancy's inclination to sway, what do you think, Philip, about having some movement in that practice as someone who always wants to be moving? And my experience of it was I was like resisting it while at the same time noticing that all of the teaching that I'm taking in these days is in this like beautiful alignment. This and a dance teacher who's like talking about being grounded in feet and moving feet, and even the physiotherapist I'm seeing for some hip pain, who is like, we're talking about feet on the floor with a tripod of 2 points at the ball of your feet and the heel. It's like, oh, this is the same lesson for me again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I'm neither yes, move or don't move. I would never wish to suppress what comes to the body naturally, but then my caution would be that what is coming is a pattern of being that might diminish the experience of the groundedness and that sense of wide open availability to the world around. So not to let the image be sacrificed to not to let it be carried away by the movement. If the movement arises from and enhances the image, I would say explore it, let it happen.
Right. Yeah, and not to let the groundedness be pulled by the what I would call impulse.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly right.
yeah,
Exactly right.
yeah.
Exactly. And an impulse that remains connected with the earth is just feels so different.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I go ahead. Yeah. Okay. I love a good tree meditation, of course. And yeah, just that awareness of we're growing down as we're growing up. We can't go one way or the other. And yeah, that balance. And I love that you picked an oak tree because I've been eating acorn pancakes this morning, and it's just like, oh, yeah, like, of course, oaks, acorns, and just that, I don't know, that connection helps it feel even more real and with me. And to think about all the, when eating acorns, it's like, wow, there was all of that potential for oak trees right there. And I'm eating it. I don't know, selfish, but we'll see. It's nourishing for sure for my body. And it also reminds me of, I guided a tree meditation a few times, like in the maple tapping season, and just speaking to that sap flow and the rest of the winter, and then tying that into as the sap's rising within us, and then our pelvic cauldron, you could say, that sap boils down to syrup, and then we release all that syrup back to the earth, you could say. And yeah, that was a really, felt like a very natural time, yeah, guidance at that point. So yeah, thanks for the tree meditation. I might use that.
Oh, you're welcome to anytime, Howard. For me, one of the, I didn't linger on it much, but one of the sort of most important, I suppose, for me, elements of it is enabling the sense of self to deepen into the earth, because we're so used to confining the sense of self within our skin, and that to feel that root system as the extended self makes me feel more deeply like a child of the earth. Yeah.
What I thought about is, as I was in that process of gathering and doing the acorns and everything, I'm in touch with it, but I'm not fully with that groundedness. And so it should be a meditation, the whole process in that sequence. And it's just very easy to get pulled out into other places in that. But yeah, that'll stick with me. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for sharing that maple syrup practice. A couple of days ago, I was drinking sap from a Norway maple, so you can't really make maple syrup from it, but oh gosh, it was gorgeous. Well, I guess you could. You can make maples, you make birch syrup, so why not from a Norway maple? But yeah, on the island there are a couple of Norway trees where there are buckets, and you can just help yourself to a glass full of the sap. It's lovely.
That's sweet.
Yeah, literally and figuratively. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please, Dennis.
Just recently, maybe in the last week or so, I've been playing with my perineum is on the earth. And when I breathe, it's like the earth is breathing. And it's helped me to feel rooted.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. And there's a sense when I do that I am being breathed by the earth.
Yeah, I can dig it. I haven't gotten there.
Yeah. But the connection with the grounding and the breathing.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the earth moves with the book.
Yeah.
And I'd like to share another verse of the song that continues to write itself forever. We ate of the tree, now it's fruitless. We can't move on, ungrounded and rootless. An inner division, so divided from each other, out of context, out of contact with our Earth Mother.
Oh yeah, Dennis. I so look forward to the
Yeah,
completion
right.
of this.
One day.
One day, yeah, no rush. It's finding its way so beautifully, and I can't wait to hold it in my hand and linger and relish it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Dennis, thanks for sharing that practice and your song. I'm curious to try out that practice of resting my perineum on the ground. But the tree practice that we just did, very grounding. I could feel the tensions and like contractions and constrictions in me just like falling away into the ground and like an opening of my being to just like allow what is to be. Um, yeah, and I felt like I was opened up so much then when you read that quote after, I got that sense of being moved to the point of tears from like hearing wisdom. So thank you for sharing that practice and quote and um yeah, inviting me back into myself and in relationship with everything around me.
Yeah, and just to be aware that as you're walking or whatever, every tree around you can offer itself to help you ground. I remember we were in Guatemala at one of these ancient Mayan sites, and there was a tree that was sacred to the ancient Mayans. And I forget the name of it. Allison might remember because she's better at that sort of thing than I am. But there was one of the trees was over 300 years old, and I went and I put my hand on it, and it was like I was falling down through this dark mystery that remembered so much, was present to so much. I've never had that sense of being almost catapulted down like that before. It was pretty amazing.
That sounds like I've only ever had relationships with trees that felt like protective or very nurturing. Willow trees for me specifically feel very nurturing. Makes me feel emotional even to think about difficult moments I've had sitting underneath them and feeling their presence with me. And then I have a very big pine tree in my backyard that I also have a bit of a relationship with that yeah, just like almost feels like it's like protecting me or encouraging me to stand strong.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful.
So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Megan. Thank you. Yeah, please, Joe.
Yeah, I'm trying to organize my thoughts. It brought up, I think, some mixed feelings, experiences or whatever. But at first, I was loving just that feeling of being grounded with the roots, and just sort of that image of the tree swaying or whatever life is throwing, that the trees sort of withstand it, and they're grounded, and all is pleasant. And then I couldn't help think, and just driving around where I live every day, you're reminded. We had a storm that blew through, and it's been the end of September now, and I would say literally probably tens of thousands of trees didn't make it. They were blown over. And so that's the mixed feeling that I'm trying to put into words. And I guess while I would love to think that there's a way to be grounded and you're going to be fine no matter what life throws at you, you might literally get annihilated. And that's okay too, I suppose. And I would go so far as to say maybe I've been annihilated. I would say most of us may have that feeling, and only to come back better. So I don't know what the timeline, it's a long timeline for these trees that got blown over in the storm, but I feel like I'm rambling at this point. But yeah, there was a sort of an initial peaceful, life is good, sway, my roots are going to keep me just fine, to a realization that, well, there's still no guarantees of the outcome we're hoping for.
Yeah, no, it's so important to make room for that. I think of the hero's journey and the way the hero is called into action and answers that call. But just because you've been called doesn't mean you'll be successful.
Mm-hmm.
It all you can do is answer the call with the whole of your being and trust. And I was also reminded when you're speaking, there was a large willow tree, as it happens, at the end of our street, one block over, that was ailing. So they cut it down right to the ground. And there's this stump there that since it was cut down, these new willow shoots have grown up. So that root system is nourishing this new growth. There is no way to live correctly in such a way that will keep us safe. That's not even if you're alive. No, I said if you're alive, you're not safe. But they speak of these trees that were grown in a sealed environment. They were trying to see how can we live, humans, in a biosphere, basically, without any input from the outside. Can they survive? And the trees were growing up, and then they started falling over because they hadn't had the stresses of the winds moving them to grow the strength of the root system to sustain them. Winds rely on, or trees rely on those stresses, just as we would just grow into complacency without the stresses, without the heartbreak. And it's to some extent a choice as to how you move on from heartbreak. But in my own life, heartbreak has left me more sensitive, more compassionate than I would have been without it. And in some way more capable of living in service rather than self-service. Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Continuing like with when our tree gets blown over, that's what we call dying. And the big old oak tree blows over, and there's a lot of grief in that. And like in that falling blindness of like just falling into mystery where there's no control to be had. It's just happening. And here we are. Then the tree's fallen over, our tree, and then mushrooms and bugs. Then so much life is coming to it, actually. And then in a little while, there's like all the termites ate it out, and now there's this beautiful soil from where the tree was. And then there's oak babies germinating right there in the soil and our dead bodies, you could say. And yeah, just that the waves of death that we will experience, including our body death. So I don't know. That was just the compost cycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of life relies on death.
Mm-hmm.
There's no exception to that I'm aware of. And I love your description of death just falling into mystery where there's no control to be had. That's pretty sweet. Thank you, Howard. Yes.
It's been a reflection for me, that cycle of life, because in May, when I go out west for my dad's funeral service, I'll be given ashes. And now I have to figure out what to do with them. Yeah, my sister and mom and nephew, we've all received a portion. And before he died, I went through a whole series of questions with him because I had done this course on a Buddhist course on preparing to die. And what do you want done with your ashes? Oh, I'll let Jennifer decide. My sister. It's like, oh, thanks for the direction, Dad. There's certain places you may scatter and certain places where you may not, or it's like frowned upon. And someone told me a story because my dad was a golfer of like putting their loved one's ashes in the pockets of their pants and then cutting the hole in the pocket so as they walked around the golf course they just sort of drifted out of their pants pocket. Yeah, I'm not a golfer, so I won't be doing that, but it's the whole cycle of life is interesting when someone hands you ashes of a person you knew.
Yeah, I was handed the ashes of a very dear friend of mine. And that sense of, I just went out into the meadow, which I dearly love, by our house. And that sense of letting the ashes come to rest in this quiet, undisturbed place in a way that they would nourish and become part of the place just resonated for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think ritual helps us move on, and ritual becomes anemic because it loses touch with the repetitions, the thousands and thousands of similar enactments over the years. And ritual for me, the blood rushes back into it when I feel the cycle moving on through the ritual, connecting me with the thousands of times in which it's moved on before.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
I loved the line, Howard, of we grow down as we grow up. And to me, that feels almost like the source of wisdom. that as we get older, our roots get deeper and our perspectives expand. And I just found that a really helpful image. And during the practice, I had this experience of being, when you see two people side by side and they're strikingly different heights, like how different they are. And I was both me and I felt small, and I was this huge tree at once, sort of this superimposed sensation of being both rooted deeply down, but also just being me on the surface of the earth, living my ant life. Just all those different scales of life that we are held by.
And that sense of feeling held, I think, is such a deep part of our humanity that we have pushed away in our very clever culture.
And those that we consider wise are deeply grounded, I would think. That they have that sense, they hold that sense within them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And those who seem not to be wise, it's like they've never grown up because they haven't grown down. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I'm looking at you all thinking how very soon it will be when we're once again together. So looking forward to that.
Amongst trees.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. Such profound teachers.
My legs are looking forward to that ridge.
Yeah. It's a good climb. So I guess the one invitation would be in the coming week, if you feel yourself unsettled or disconnected in some way, to come back to that image of the tree, to allow your sense of self to extend down into the earth. Feel how grounded your being is. In the earth beneath your feet, and to feel the ability to open, to become available to the world around you by virtue of that groundedness, and just see where it takes you to play around with it. For me, the work is about resensitizing to who we are in relationship to the world around us, and to bridge the gaps in our sensitivity, to restore our sensitivity, is to become more and more capable of living in harmony. Any other questions or comments? Why don't we unmute and call out and cheer each other on and whatever may come to mind.
Nancy have a question? I saw her hand up.
Just a little comment. Thank you. I am, with respect to what to think about for the coming week, it reminded me of what to think about for last week, the spaciousness in the heart. And I've never really felt that spaciousness in the body. But a few days ago, I had this profound meditation where this energy that I always easily feel in this area just like shot right down through my body. And I can't explain it, but it felt amazing. So I don't really have anything to say about it except that, because it was just like, wow. And I hope that repeats itself again. So yeah, it was cool. So
Yeah.
thank you
Gorgeous.
for prompting that, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. We are trained not to notice the body's energy, and we are trained to glom onto ideas and get busy rearranging them. And it's such a wondrous journey back into the energy of your being. Yeah. Thank you, Nancy.
Good to see you all. Really great.
Yeah. Lots of love to everyone. Yeah.
I guess.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
See you next week.
You bet. You bet.